What does a moose leg have to do with completing this event? Get the book to find out. Dean, I know you said that you're normal, but you're an animal. You're a beast. Hello, readers and friends across the internet. Welcome back to Read Much. I'm Stephen Walls, and I've got another amazing book for you. Let's just get into it. 50-50, Secrets I Learned Running 50 Marathons in 50 Days, and How You Too Can Achieve Super Endurance by Dean Karnazes. I believe this book is after his one of his other books called The Ultramarathon Man, and he is known as the Ultramarathon Man. This guy is crazy amazing. If he is not just a genetic anomaly, if he's not just gifted genetically, he is one of the most superhuman in the sense of pushing a regular human's body to the limit. I mean, gosh, this guy is crazy. I actually tweeted on Twitter, that's weird to say, I wish he would have called it 50-50-50 because it's 50 marathons in 50 days in a row, one in each state. That is wild, but absolutely phenomenal. So I wrote down a quote. I'm going to read it to you. Just remember, as extreme as some of my accomplishments have been, you are reading about an average guy, an extremely average guy. I chuckled because if that's true, he has pushed the limits for what an average Joe can do. Well done. This was a fantastic read, guys. I blew through this. It's very, very easy to read. It's got some cool organization I'm going to talk about in a minute. But I loved this book. But when he said I'm an extremely average guy, it made me think of Saitama from One Punch Man. I mean, the whole concept of I'm just a hero for fun. How do you get in such good shape? Oh, the true secret is, a 10K, 100 push-ups a day, whatever, Saitama. But yeah, Dean goes through kind of what it took to prepare for this kind of event, goes into the details behind the scenes, and just gave us a glimpse of all the pain, joy, and struggles he went through to make this happen. One of the concepts I got reading this book was Dean goes above and beyond when it comes to preparing to be successful. He wanted to become a good runner, and he implemented that into his lifestyle. Throughout this book, there's a couple times where Dean says his family's going camping, and he would run a couple of hours before his family would leave their house in their car, and they'd pick him up on the way. Or if they were a couple hours away from where they were supposed to be, they would drop him off and he would run the rest of the way. And he runs with two things on his person, because when you're running, you don't want to carry a whole lot of stuff on you. It weighs you down. He ran with a credit card and his cell phone. The cell phone was if anybody needs to reach you or you need to reach somebody in case of emergency, you could do that. And the credit card was, hey, if you need fuel, if you need calories, if you need water in the middle of one of these long runs, it just happens to be very dry and humid or something like that, you could stop at a gas station or a store and pick up something. And sometimes, funny thing, it mentions it in the book, his wife would call him while he was running on the way to like camping or something. Like, hey, we forgot to grab this. Can you pick it up? And he would stop at just a little grocery store or gas station and pick up that item in the middle of his run. But the concept is he would be so prepared to run that he would implement it into his life. He would kind of make his life work around his prepping, and that's just a key to success in anything in life. If you want to become a better reader, carry more books with you. If you want to become more successful at your job, then continue learning and practicing your skills throughout the day, not just when you're on the clock. And I thought that was a really key lesson learned that he shared in how to be successful. One of the things that I've never really thought about before, that I've participated in a couple 5Ks, half marathons, I didn't realize how much preparation there was involved in those events. Dean highlighted some of the stuff that happened to make their 50-50 event possible, and there was permitting, there was events that they had to schedule because they wanted to run official marathon distance events, because they didn't want at the end of this 50 days someone to come back and say, that wasn't a true marathon, you really didn't do it. So they went out of their way, I say above and beyond, to get these different leaders of the different events, so like the Boston Marathon, the New York Marathon, if it wasn't scheduled on the day they were going to be in the area, they would have to reach out to these other event leaders and get one unofficially scheduled. Therefore, when they showed up, though that marathon may be supposed to be held in February, March, they moved it, at least had a smaller scaled version of that marathon so that Dean could have a precisely measured race to run. And then another thing they had to do was work with the cities and local areas to get permits to allow them to have runners, and then get the police to help them with traffic control. It was crazy. And then I was just thinking, since I read this in 2021, wow, Dean, what if you tried to do this in 2020? No way. You'd be running with 2 people, and you'd have 1 policeman in 1 car trying to do all the traffic because you can't have 2 people sitting within 6 feet of each other. Oh man, what a nightmare that would have been. And I think this was kind of like a logistical nightmare. They got it done. That, kudos to the team to make this happen, but amazing. As an engineer, one of the things I really enjoyed about the organization of the chapters in this book was every chapter has one or multiple marathon statistics. Ooh, I don't think it's going to focus on that. So if you see this chart right here, this little table, I'm going to read it to you. Every single marathon, he tells you what day of the run it is, so day 1 through 50, the date, of course, which official marathon he ran, the state and town that he ran it in, the elevation, that's pretty cool, the weather, so if it was sunny, hot, it tells you the temperature, it tells you if it's cloudy or whatnot, it just gives you everything about like the weather that day, the time it took for him to complete the marathon, net calories burned. I thought that was really cool. At the end of it, he's burned so many calories in 50 days. It was just really interesting to see. And then also included in there was the number of runners who participated, so that was kind of cool. So you could see if it was a big scale marathon, or if they maxed out their permits, or if it was a scheduled marathon where they had like lots of people show up. That was kind of cool too. But 50/50 was a 5-year dream for Dean, and it was just really cool to see it come together. Originally it was going to be like a little family vacation, and then North Face sponsored him, which thank you North Face, because we have this amazing runner who gets to do this as a living now. They took it over, and basically I think Dean says they hijacked his family vacation, but they made it possible to do some amazing things, so kudos to them. And for those of you who are like me, like an engine nerd, if you like the sciencey side of things, they took throughout the duration of this event blood samples and urine samples from Dean, and were tracking just muscle decay and weight loss and dehydration throughout the course of the event. And at the end of the book, the doctors summarize what they found, and those were really interesting. I'm not going to tell you about it, but it was Dean's body handles endurance really well. Another really cool thing that Dean did throughout this book, because the title is Secrets I Learned Running 50 Marathons in 50 Days. He gives you tips and tricks on how to be successful as a runner, but not just limited to like the marathon distance. He also gives you just advice on how to be just a little 5K runner or a mile runner. He just gives you advice on running. Here's some of the different, can I quote Arnold Schwarzenegger? Here's some of the advices that he gives, that Dean gives. Here's some of the advices that Dean gives. How to avoid sickness when you're racing. What should you do when you finish a marathon? Running in the rain. Tips to avoid blisters. How to stay hydrated. Aid station etiquette. How to start this hobby of running, and more. And I will say, just reading this book will motivate you to get to moving, whether it's just going for a walk, walking your dogs in the afternoon, or taking up running as a hobby. I found myself running a lot more once I started reading this book. Even though Dean did this amazing feat of athleticism and endurance, he really showed his humanity as well, and humility. He totally shared with us on the second marathon, I believe he develops a blister. Well, that's day 2 of a 50-day event. And not just 6-mile event. It's day 2 of 26 times 48. He's got so many more miles to run. He didn't have to share that with us, but he does. And he shares with you kind of his mentality, what he tried to do to potentially hide it from people to take care of him because it looked like could have been a novice mistake. He was really approachable in this book, and I really was able to connect with him. Instead of having him on this pedestal, which I do, I was able to realize he is still human. He's not put on the pedestal to separate himself, but he's elevated there because of what he's done. Also, he shares with you his doubts. Running a marathon is a big deal. Running 2 marathons back to back is a big deal. Running a marathon for a week, every day a week, that'd be crazy. This guy did 50 of those. And even though he's the ultramarathon man, even though he has run 200 miles nonstop in the past, he was concerned because this is a big feat. And he shares with you some of his doubts and frustrations and what he needed to get through to be able to complete this amazing goal, amazing dream that he had. I really appreciated that. A lot of really far runners, like ultramarathon distance runners, are really introverted and they like running by themselves. That's just their escape, and they actually get energy from that. That fuels them. Dean kind of highlighted how some of these runs where he started off wanting to be by himself, running in the woods kind of alone, how running with these new people, some of them novice, some of them experts, some of them just intermediate runners, really energized him, and he developed some really cool relationships throughout it. And some of the benefits that he got from running with a group, not racing, but just running with a group, I enjoyed that. I'm a people person, so seeing him kind of having just a switch in the mentality during these runs was just kind of cool. Not saying that he doesn't like running solo, he still totally does, but it's kind of fun to see his thinking of, it was interesting to see his mindset change on the group running, especially with these people that are potentially novices trying to run with their hero. And running has an amazing community behind it. If you've ever joined a 5K or a half marathon, the tents, the volunteers, the prizes, the games, the food, everything, for even the things that they put together for the non-runners, man, the running community is strong. And Dean highlights that in this book. Another thing that I didn't really consider before reading this book was others can inspire you, but they can't really motivate you. Motivation has to come from within. But watching people, you can get inspired by their actions, and I never thought about that before. I also enjoyed some of the details he just threw in there. Some of the runners he ran with were doctors. I think he ran with a governor in there. Some of them are just your average Joes. It was cool to kind of see some of these little relationships form, and I don't know, it was kind of cool. Something else that I really got from Dean as I was reading this book is he really wants you, me, the reader, everybody. He wants us to be healthy. And a part of being healthy is just being able to control your weight. And he gave some tips on weight control. One, daily exercise. His favorite was running, but he's an active guy. He likes surfing and doing other cool things, bicycling, swimming, just daily exercise. Two, portion control. You don't have to eat everything at the buffet. You can get a smaller portion and enjoy that and stop when you're satisfied, not when you're full. And three, behavior modification. There's things that we can do to help prevent us from snacking and doing other things that are going to basically set us up for failure. Wow, Duct Tape, you're a hero, and I'm so glad that you made it into this book. Side note, what is toe-headed? What's a toe-headed boy? I don't know what that is. Another thing I really enjoyed about this book, I'm not going to show you, but inside this book, about a third of the way through, there's pictures. So you could see some of the things that Dean got to do and just different experiences. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. There's some pictures in here. So I really enjoyed getting to see some of the different events that Dean participated in. I have a question for you runners. Dean brought it up in his book, but I wanted to pose it to you. Music or no music? And I guess in this day and age, audiobooks or no audiobooks? I mean, basically headphones, no headphones. What kind of a runner are you? What kind of a walker are you? Leave it in the comments below, because I'm curious, what do you prefer? One of these chapters is titled something extremely interesting. I'm going to share it with you and see what you think. If it stinks, eat it. That's all I got to say. One time through his books earlier, I mentioned Saitama. Another thing he said in this book, he used the word blustery, and I can't help it. If you use the word blustery, my mind's going to go to Piglet and Winnie the Pooh and the blustery day. I'm just saying. Is anybody else out there with me? And how can breathing through a straw help you as a runner? There's a beautiful quote on page 190, and I just want to read it to you. Whenever runners allow suffering to defeat them and consequently fail to do their best, it is not because they lack mental toughness, but because, for some reason, they just didn't have the courage that day to access it. That's pretty cool. I like that quote. It's a good thought. And I mean, this book has some of the, can I say tropes in it? There's the running tropes. It's got the Chariots of Fire. It's got Forrest Gump. It's got Rocky running up the stairs. I mean, almost anybody can relate to something in this book. This book really can be read by almost anybody, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It has a low star rating on Goodreads, and I don't know if that's because people don't like it's not a fantasy book, or I don't know. It's just a man, an amazing human, sharing his experience with you. And I mean, if you didn't want to read about this, don't read about it. But if you're interested, it's a good book. And at the end of this book, I'm going to try to take the challenge. I kind of fell off a little bit recently, but at the end they have a calendar to help first-time marathoners finish their first marathon. And if it's not your first marathon, they have another calendar in the back for you to try to get your best PR, a personal record in the marathon. And it tells you what you need to do each day. How many miles? Is it a rest day? Could you do cross-training? I think that's neat. And so I'm going to actually try to do the first-time marathoner. and I've never competed in a marathon. I've run 15 miles before, but then I got a shin splint the next week, and so it kind of canceled my training. But yeah, I think I would like to take up the challenge and run my first marathon. And if I do, I'm going to call Dean on Twitter again. He responded to my tweet the other day, and I thought that was so cool that the author responded to me. But if I do my first marathon, I will let this man know, because he would have inspired me in a large way to make that happen. What's keeping you from investing in your health? That was what Dean really wanted to do. He wanted to help you be a healthier you. Is it a lack of time? Is it too hard? If you don't have time, if it seems too hard, maybe it's time to check your priorities. We are all given the same 24 hours, and you just get to choose what you're going to do with them. Now, I'm not telling you have to run. I'm not telling you need to become the next ultramarathon man. But what I am saying is, look at your life, find out what's important to you, and make time for that. Make time for your family. Make time for your hobbies. Make time for your health. Become a better you. Become a more well-rounded you. I was inspired by this book. And like I mentioned at the beginning, you got to plan for it. You got to set yourself up for success. Dean carries a credit card and a cell phone every time he goes running, and that enables him to continue running often. He gets dropped off before he arrives at the camping site. He decides to run early in the morning. If there's different events during the day, he runs to soccer games to watch his kids play soccer. What can you and I do to set ourselves up for success, to be able to achieve our goals and spend more time doing our hobbies, as well as spending more time with our family, investing in that? It's a very inspiring book. So I hope this book inspires you. I hope you get a copy, because I've read it twice now. It's really good. It's super easy to read, and I definitely recommend you get yourself a copy, or at least check it out from the library, because it is that good. But I want to hear from you. What do you think I need to read next? Leave it in the comments below, and I'll take a look, and I will highly consider picking up one of the books that you recommend. And I want to leave you just with one more question. Do you even read much?